U.S. President Donald Trump's second term is being shaped by his foreign policy ambitions. He's followed through on threats against Venezuela by capturing its president and his wife from their heavily fortified Caracas compound in a dramatic overnight raid. When describing the operation, Trump dusted off the 1823 Monroe Doctrine and its promise of U.S. supremacy in the Western Hemisphere, rebranding it the Donoro Doctrine. Here are some of the warnings he's made against other nations in Washington's orbit in recent days. The U.S. already has a military base on Greenland Pacific Space Base, but Trump wants the whole island. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, he told journalists, saying the region was covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. The vast Arctic island, part of the Kingdom of Denmark, sits roughly 2,000 miles, 3,200 kilometers to the northeast of the U.S. ends. Rich in rare earth minerals, which are crucial for the production of smartphones, electric vehicles, and military hardware. Currently, China's production of rare earths far outweighs that of the U.S. Greenland also occupies a key strategic location in the North Atlantic, giving access to the increasingly important Arctic Circle. As polar ices melt in the coming years, new shipping routes are expected to open up. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen responded to Trump by describing the notion of U.S. control over the island as a fantasy. No more pressure. More insinuations. No more fantasies of annexation. We are open to dialogue. We are open to discussions, but this must happen through the proper channels and with respect for international law, he said. Any U.S. attempt to seize Greenland would bring it into conflict with another NATO member, likely putting the alliance in peril. Just hours after the operation in Venezuela, Trump warned Colombian President Gustavo Petro to watch his ass, Venezuela's neighbor to the west. Colombia is home to substantial oil reserves and is a major producer of gold, silver, emerald, platinum, and coal. It is also a key hub for the region's drug trade, most notably cocaine. Since the U.S. began striking boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific in September, saying, without evidence, they were carrying drugs. Trump has been locked in a spiraling dispute with the country's left-wing president. The U.S. imposed sanctions on Petro in October, saying he was allowing cartels to flourish. Speaking aboard Air Force One on Sunday, Trump said Colombia was being run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. He's not going to be doing it for very long. He said, asked whether the U.S. would carry out an operation targeting Colombia, Trump replied, sounds good to me. Historically, Colombia has been a close ally in Washington's war on drugs, receiving hundreds of millions of dollars annually in military assistance to counter cartels. Iran is currently facing mass anti-government protests, and Trump warned overnight that the authorities there would be hit very hard if more protesters died. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States, he told reporters on Air Force One. Iran theoretically falls outside the scope defined in the Donoro Doctrine, but Trump has nonetheless previously threatened the Iranian regime with further action after striking its nuclear facilities last year. Those strikes came after Israel launched a large-scale operation aimed at decapitating Iran's capability to develop a nuclear weapon, which culminated in the 12-day Israel-Iran conflict. In a meeting between Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last week, Iran was said to be top of the agenda. U.S. media reported that Netanyahu raised the potential of new strikes against Iran in 2026. Trump's rise to power in 2016 was defined by his calls to build the wall along the southern border with Mexico on his first day back in office in 2025. He signed an executive order to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. He has frequently claimed Mexican authorities aren't doing enough to stop the flow of drugs or illegal immigrants into the U.S. Speaking on Sunday, he said that drugs were pouring through Mexico and we're going to have to do something, adding that the cartels there were very strong. Trump said he's offered to send his troops to Mexico to combat cartels, but President Claudia Sheinbaum has publicly rejected any U.S. military action on Mexican soil. The island nation, just 90 miles, 145 kilometers south of Florida, has been under U.S. sanctions since the early 1960s. It held close relations with Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela, which reportedly supplied roughly 30% of Cuba's oil in exchange for doctors and medics. Traveling in the other direction, With Maduro gone, Havana could be exposed if oil supply collapses. Trump suggested on Sunday the U.S. military intervention there wasn't needed because Cuba is ready to fall. I don't think we need any action, he said. It looks like it's going down. I don't know if they're going to hold out, but Cuba now has no income, he added. They got all their income from Venezuelan oil. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is the son of Cuban immigrants, has long called for regime change in Cuba, telling journalists on Saturday, "If I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned at least a little bit."